You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Days fans. So we have spoilers next week for John Black, but Drake Hogestyn's last appearance was confirmed to be September 9th. So how will they exit the character and say a final goodbye to the beloved actor, given spoilers for next week and then this confirmed ending date for him that's already passed? It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to talk about how Days of Our Lives may exit the character of John Black. Obviously, they need to do justice to the character and honor him with a funeral that'll serve the dual purpose of serving as a tribute to Drake Hogestyn. The spoilers for next week are about Marlena and John's anniversary. So where is he? Well, there's something important happening that you need to know. I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. The current storyline involving Clyde Weston and Cat Greene seems a very likely way to write out the character of John Black, but also honor the actor. And if you're current on your episodes, you likely noticed that the October 29th episode ended with a dedication card to Drake Hogestyn, and that came a month after he passed on September 28th, 2024. And, you know, we know that Days tapes 6 to 8 months ahead. Right now, it's running about 8 months ahead. So we're seeing things now that filmed back in March. But this is not a surprise exit. I am quite certain that the Peacock soap's showrunner and the writers knew that Drake Hogestyn was terminally ill, so they could craft a storyline for his exit. But you know, they write so far ahead, it makes things awkward. The gap between his last appearance as John Black and when Drake passed away was just 3 weeks apart. So that means he wrapped filming 7 to 8 months before he passed away. That also means unless they saved some footage or filmed ahead, you know, and archived some, John Black's ending is going to have to be off screen. But exactly how is it going to happen? Given that Cat Greene, aka Fake Abby, was found lurking near the room where Chad DiMera and Jack Devereaux found John, it seems likely that that is the storyline that's going to be his last. And it all goes back to those early days when Drake's character first came to town as the pawn. There, you know, was amnesia, bandages, very soapy origins for John Black's character. And of course, we never fully unraveled his whole backstory until they introduced Dick Van Dyke as amnesiac Korean war vet who turned out to be Timothy Robichaux, the real father of John Black. And that wasn't that long ago. And not long after that, then we got the whole messy Konstantine Meleounis drama where he had the card that controlled the pawn and he seemed to know a lot about John's past as the pawn. And Konstantine was certain that John murdered his daughter Katerina on Victor Kiriakis' orders. So when John got back some of his memories and erased the pawn programming with help from his beloved Marlena Evans, he was in anguish over Katerina's killing. And now we find out she never died, although Konstantine thought she did. And she had 4 children, Dr. Mark Greene, pretend Abby, Cat Greene, and younger siblings Felicity and Aaron Greene. Plus, we found out Clyde Weston is holding Katerina and threatened her life to force Mark and Cat to run a fake resurrected Abigail Khan to get a pile of DiMera money. And clearly, Clyde is also tied to this tale for a very specific reason. He doesn't have a ton of history with John, you know? Creepy Clyde does have a significant past with Victor Kiriakis, with EJ DiMera, with Chad DiMera, but his only significant interaction with John that is coming to my mind, really, was during that big prison break where Clyde broke out with Xandra Cook and Orpheus. And if you recall, Milo Harp, aka Orpheus, was planning to kill John Black. So this Clyde-John thing definitely feels like an alteration of history or an addition to history, maybe even a full-blown retcon. That remains to be seen. Clyde just escaped from prison since his scheme to use a dodgy legal scheme failed. Remember, his plan was to be exonerated for Abigail's murder by having a faked DNA test saying that Kat was Chad's wife, because if Abby were alive, then Clyde's conviction for her murder would be overturned. But now that the truth is out, Clyde was going to be stuck in prison, so he escaped during a transfer when he was supposed to be going to a court hearing. And that has him free to wreak havoc on whomever he wants. And we all know Clyde's not going to just go away quietly. So I do suspect John's death could be at the hands of awful Clyde. He could kidnap John and hold him hostage, or John could go after Clyde, determined to put him down, especially since Marlena messaged him with the latest info on Cat and that Katerina didn't die and just all the lies that have come out. And of course, we know Konstantine wanted John dead as payback for him killing Katerina, but she's not dead and Konstantine is, so that means that's not the answer to what happens to John Black. Remember, this is not Clyde's first jailbreak, and he gets better at evading the law each time. And he also has some henchmen running around working for him because they're the ones holding Cat and Mark's mom hostage. So that means Clyde could have some of his thugs take out John, and that could be how he exits, but random bad guys taking out the legendary pawn seems anticlimactic to me. However, I do have an idea for a much more heroic exit for Drake Hogestyn's character. Given his guilt because he thought he killed Katerina, I could see John hearing that Clyde has her and him deciding it's his obligation to get her away from murderous madman Clyde Weston. It's not like Cat and Mark would have ever targeted Chad or the DiMeras left to their own devices, you know? They have been blackmailed with very powerful leverage. Saving their mom's life was very important to them. It does seem their father is really dead, unless, of course, they're going to change that with some retro rewrite and make their dad into somebody else on days. You know, we'll see. Hopefully not. I've said here before, I think that John Black's funeral could be coming in June 2025 because there's a whole pile of returning characters associated with him. And, you know, in December of this year, we have got the funeral of Doug Williams and the tribute to Bill Hayes, and then other stuff coming in the new year. So, you know, as far ahead as they film, June does make sense. So these characters that are coming back, many of them have ties back to John. Carrie Brady, Bo and Hope Brady, Tony and Anna DiMera, Jen Horton and Jack Devereaux, Will Horton, Shane Devereaux, and others. Plus, June 2024 is when AnnaLynne McCord debuted as the mystery woman who turned out to be fake Abby, who we found out was really Cat Greene. And she had a 1-year contract, and so we should see her on-screen exit in June 2025, which would coincide nicely with the returning characters and the possible funeral of John Black. And of course, that's 8 months away from now, but days could absolutely drag out this Cat, Clyde, Chad storyline that ties into John Black as well for that long, because there's so many other storylines going on at the same time that things don't move super fast. I hope whatever storyline that is Drake Hogestyn's last, that they write him a dramatic and fitting exit that honors John Black's nearly 40 years in Salem and in the hearts of Days of Our Lives fans.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.